In the quaint town of Shepherd's Creek, nestled between a serene lake and towering mountains, lived a man named Arthur. An experienced journalist turned screenwriter, Arthur was known for his compelling storytelling and sharp wit. He had an impressive collection of awards on his mantelpiece, but one thing gnawed at him: he had never truly challenged himself. He often wondered if he was more than a mere purveyor of stories, if he could create his own adventure. As he sat at his desk one afternoon, staring out at the picturesque view, an idea struck him. What if he embarked on a real challenge? Something that would push him out of his comfort zone. That's when he decided to hike the treacherous Mount Veritas, a peak notorious for its difficult trails and unpredictable weather. With excitement tinged by apprehension, he made plans for an adventure that would change his life. Arthur spent the days leading up to his hike immersed in preparation. He consulted seasoned hikers, gathered equipment, and even spoke with local legends who had conquered the mountain. Yet, despite his meticulous planning, he was unprepared for the toll the physical exertion would take on him. He practiced by walking for hours each day, but nothing compared to what lay ahead. On the day of his hike, the sun cast a warm golden hue over the landscape. He donned his backpack and set forth, his heart pounding with anticipation. The early stages of the trail were scenic, filled with vibrant wildflowers and the cheerful chirping of birds. Each step felt invigorating, and he felt like an explorer charting new territory. However, as he ascended, the trail became steeper and more challenging. By the time he reached the halfway point, fatigue began to set in. The flowers faded, and the chirps of birds were replaced by the howls of the wind. Each step took effort, and a sense of doubt gnawed at his resolve. There were moments when he wanted to turn back, thinking about how much easier it would be to retreat to the safety of his desk. Determined not to let those doubts win, Arthur pushed through. He recalled all the stories he had written, filled with heroes overcoming obstacles, with courage prevailing against the odds. Wasn't he the hero of his own story? Just when Arthur thought he'd reached his breaking point, he stumbled upon an unexpected sight: a small group of hikers sitting around a fire, sharing laughter and tales from the trail. Invited to join them, he learned they had a tradition of sharing a peak story at every summit they reached. The stories varied. Some were about failure, others about triumph, but each had a common thread: a challenge that shaped the storyteller. Inspired, Arthur felt an urge to share his own tale, but he had never climbed the mountain yet. He was just a wannabe hero. Curious, the group asked him about his journey so far. He shared his preparations, his doubts, and revelations about what it meant to challenge oneself. As he spoke, he realized that the struggle was just as important as the triumph. In fact, it was the struggle that made a story worth telling. With renewed vigor, Arthur felt the power of vulnerability and authenticity. He had challenged himself not just physically, but mentally too. It dawned on him that every storyteller knows that the adventure can be as significant as the destination. "You haven't reached the top yet," one hiker laughed as he wrapped up his tale. "But you already have a story." Arthur returned to the trail after saying his goodbyes, infused with newfound energy. The peak still loomed high above, but he felt different, less like a burden and more like a seeker. As he clambered onward, each step felt lighter, each breath filled with promise. After hours of grueling ascents, he finally reached the summit at dusk. The world spread beneath him like an artist's canvas, painted with vibrant colors, golden rays splashed upon mountains and blue lakes shimmering in the evening light. Alone atop the mountain, he reflected on his journey. He understood then that challenging oneself is not just about the accolades or reaching the destination. It's about growth, understanding, and realizing the importance of the journey itself. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Arthur took a deep breath, feeling a sense of fulfillment that transcended the climb. When he eventually returned home, he was not just a screenwriter with more awards, he was a storyteller with richer tales to tell. He learned that sometimes the greatest stories come not from triumph, but from the struggle to overcome adversity. Life, much like his hike, is a journey composed of stepping stones of challenges, each vital to creating the narrative worthy of telling. The clever twist. True adventure often happens not when we seek comfort, but when we embrace discomfort. That's where the magic unfolds. And so, Arthur became more than a writer, He became a true adventurer, both in life and in story, proving that every ascent is a chapter waiting to be written.